We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything, and I mean everything, in college football because we love everything, and I mean everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support our channel through a donation. Hit the $ where you put a comment in and we'll get you super chat as quick as possible. Welcome in to the studio that sits on the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. We might not have a stacked show today. That might not be the case. It's a big show. It might get stacked if we get some breaking news. Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate those very kind words. Very kind words, Marcus William. My daily highlight. I look forward to your lives. I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. I'm going to tell you something that you should not be looking forward to. All of you. You know, once in a while, I put out an episode. I put out an episode where it's PATC rendition, and then it's a song, right? And it corresponds to what is happening in college football. The last PATC rendition we did was the song Ball and Chains by Social Distortion. A lot of you didn't listen to it. You ignored it, and that probably was a good decision. Some of you listened to it and may have had to turn it off or hit the mute button. Well, I'm working on another project, another PATC rendition. This is going to be in regards to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Notre Dame saying they can do it alone. They can go it alone. They don't need to be a part of a conference decade after decade after decade. Independence is woven in to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish DNA. So, to encapsulate that, I am going to try to, of course it has to be an a cappella. I'm going to try to do a PATC rendition of Miley Cyrus Flowers. How about them apples? How about them apples, huh? Huh? So that is something that you should not be looking forward to. But I appreciate the super chat, Marcus Williams. I'm working on it. I need a lot more work to nail down that song with my thick northern Minnesota accent. We'll see how I do. Marcus Williams, thank you so much for this super chat. Before we get on to our show, I want to say thanks for everybody who's come on in at the beginning of the show. Joe Z, early peak member. James Foster, R. Webb. Patrick is in the house. The Baylor Bears, Patrick is in the house. Ryan Brooks. Nope, I still got Nussmeier ranked number 12 in the SEC quarterbacks for 2024. Now, could it be by the third week of the season I completely forget that I made that terrible projection of Nussmeier? Possibly. Maybe. Probably. But we'll wait to the fourth week of September. It's a late start. College football has a late start in the calendar. So maybe it'll take a little bit longer for me to bury my head on that prediction. Tom Dubay is in the house. BR7062, early peak member. Mr. Monkey says, love sports. I wish I could get in on more live shows, but usually I can't. Darn it, have a great show. Greg, thank you, love sports. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Cameron B. Rock Chalk Jayhawk is in the house. Thank you, Cameron. NE is in the house. Yep, we got that. We got that story. We'll go over it here right after I say thank you for everybody coming on in. Derek Marie is in the house. Matt Neeson has come on in. Mr. Buckeye. Jared Jones. Hola, amigos. Bigfoot Duck. Greg the Hammer. Valentine. Yes, Bigfoot Duck, thank you for coming on in. Mr. Buffalo, Richard L. Justin Lucas. Schultz is still blocking. Do we know that for sure? Do we know that for sure? Have we seen a recent report out of Dallas, Texas? Keep your head on a swivel. If somebody publishes a report as we're doing this live show, send it to my DM. Let me know in the chat. Amy S., hello, is in the house. Steve-O is in the house. We are live. We are live. We do need a reset. We're not going to get it today. Caden's dad. Let me think about it. Let me make a few phone calls, request on the Florida State Money Perch, and let's see if we can get some information by the end of the week. Cornelius Green, praise the Lord, Greg. You got that right, Mr. Green. Hola, Senor. Immaculate Mr. Hawkeye is in the house. I missed the beginning. Did Greg play the drums? Nope. No, I did not. Not this time. Clint Moses is in the house. Gold Nose FSU is in the house. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Don in Kansas is in the house. Illini Ted, Mick Stevens, Mr. Hornfrogs is in the house. Chad Bracey has come on into the studio. Jamie Thornton, how about those Miami Hurricanes today with that number 4 class? See what Mario Cristobal can do with that class. Rock and Rant, sing Don't Cry for Me, Clemson Tigers, to the tune of Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. I'm going to think about that, Rock and Rant. I'm going to let that marinate. Bob Husley is in the house. Hummus Hero is in the house. John Boxleitner. I'm a Cold War veteran and a college football fan. The title has my interest piqued. John, I want to say thank you for being a Cold War veteran. Thank you so very much for your service. I appreciate it. If he wasn't blocking, I'm sure we would be hearing about it. I kind of have it the other way. If he was blocking, I think we would have heard about it. I think the SEC and the Big Ten would use their connections in the press. I think that's would have already been leaked. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Dellinger said the CFP presidents will meet via video chat at some point to go over it. Paul Clifton is in the house. Chapman says Schultz is there with Kliakov as his advisor. Cornelius Green, Coastal Carolina's Tim Beck, Clemson's Dabo Sweeney, in South Carolina's Shane Beamer went to the SC South Carolina State House to advocate for NIL legislation. Interesting. Randy Taylor is in the house. Canes all day. Ted Evans, Mr. Husky is in the house. Morris Simmons is in the house. Okay. Let's get to something that I wanted to go through yesterday, but obviously that was not going to happen. But I think this puts everything in good context of what is going on. Let me first show you something here. Before we get into that, this story is kind of setting the table. I think we need to take a step back and just set the table here. I want to show you. Whoa! What happened to my camera? Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Wow, this, I'm not sure what happened here. Hold on. What is going on? What is going on? Ah! Oh, hold on, hold on. Okay, does that look okay? Holy smokes. I don't know what's going on here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, you can see me, hear me. Okay, now what was I talking about? Oh, yes. So, okay. So we're going to talk about, thank you guys, appreciate it. We're talking about the Cold War, right? The Cold War is over. That was the title of this live show. I called it P2's Cold War is over for now. What happens next? The Cold War has been going on for a long time between the SEC and the Big Ten. We're going to go over an article here from Matt Hayes, but it's he's going to put a lot of it on Kevin Warren, and that is correct. But the Cold War was happening way before Kevin Warren ever became a Big Ten commissioner. It was going on with Jim Delaney's 25 years. And I want to go back to talk about Power 2. This concept of Power 2. And I've done this before over and over and over again on the show, and I'm going to do it again because so many people are using the concept of Power 2 in so many different ways. Now, there's people out there who say it's going to be a Power 2 breakaway, it's going to happen soon, it's going to happen tomorrow, whatever. I do not agree with that at all. I don't think there's going to be a breakaway. Now, I don't think there's going to be a breakaway in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And if there is, in other words, if the Big Ten and the SEC breaks off together, break off alone and have their own playoffs, I would be taking the biggest L this channel will ever take. We don't take many L's here. We had to take one this week, but we don't take many L's here. I would be absolutely shocked. So people say then, Greg, I've seen it. You know, there's some people out there that pretty much spend all their days waking up, going to bed, and in between that time, railing against college football's peek around the corner, the rebel outposts of all college football. They're saying Greg doesn't even believe in a Power 2. Greg doesn't believe in a Power 2. He doesn't think they're powerful and they break away and all this. Again, they're playing semantics. I believe in a Power 2 when it comes to power, influence, money. But that's different. Now, other people out there have predicted a Power 2 for years in the sense that they're going to break away and create their own playoffs. I want to show you something. I put out this tweet. June 6, 2022. Even stronger interest than expected for Big Ten content during media negotiations is not good news for the Pac. What BTM, and that's short for BTM Man and his associates, they're the ones who have given me the information of connections with the Arizona State money perch, now the Florida State money perch, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I just call it BTM. What BTM has been saying for years is only growing stronger. Economic forces of consolidating big brands together, P2, P3, that led Oklahoma, Texas to SEC is now pulling USC away from the Pac. And I put up here 22 days. It actually is 24 days, but before it became official, USC, UCLA to the Big Ten. P2, P3 in power, money, influence was already being created under Cloak and Dagger. This has been going on for a long time. This P2, P3, whatever you want to call that third conference. And it isn't that Peek Around the Corner did not realize it. Of course we realized it. We were the ones that were talking about it. We were the ones that were saying that UCLA is doing all this work behind the scene, Cloak and Dagger, and they're going to join the Big Ten. We talked about it from March all the way up to June 30th. Our very last tweet was June, I can't remember when it was, June 20 something. And so we know what, we understand that, of course we do. Of course this is the phrase we were calling it. But when it comes to power, money, and influence, not a breakaway. Not yet, if ever. We still do not believe that to be the case. Now, during this live show, if we get breaking news on Dallas and everything went pear-shaped, we'll report it and everything, but I don't think that's where this is all going. Not now, not yet. Power to and influence, yes. A third conference that's has more influence than the fourth biggest conference, yes. But not as a breakaway. Not yet, if ever. Definitely not yet. Again, people are using P2, P3 in completely different ways, and some people are moving their goalposts daily, weekly, constantly, and you know who I'm talking about. We're not moving our goalposts here at Peek Around the Corner. Just to put that, just to give you all that. Okay, now, that is in the backdrop of the Cold War. When I'm talking about P2, I'm talking power, influence, money. I'm not talking breakaway. If I'm going to be talking about a true breakaway, I will use that language. The language of breakaway. 1st and 10, how Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti ended the SEC and the Big Ten Cold War, and what comes next for college football. I don't want to get on a soapbox, but shrouded by the upheaval and uncertainty of the pandemic, the genesis of this unique partnership began in 2020. So did the mistrust this partnership, or whatever this becomes, an industry source told Saturday Down South, doesn't happen if Kevin Warren is the Big Ten commissioner. I absolutely agree. The Big Ten expanding with Oregon and Washington would not have happened if Kevin Warren was the commissioner. And we reported that in real time. And when Kevin Warren left, when he made the announcement he was going to leave, we told you all the Big Ten door, expansion door has been officially cracked open for Oregon and Washington. Kevin Warren had to leave for a whole lot of things to happen. Everything was gridlocked. A whole lot of people, one particular media company had it with Kevin Warren. And so did Greg Sankey. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey didn't trust Warren. And because the SEC presidents valued Sankey and his leadership, they didn't trust Warren either. Nobody trusted Warren. The Big Ten presidents didn't trust Warren. The Big Ten boosters did not trust Warren. Why do I know this? Because that's why Flug Empire, myself, were given the information that the USC called the Big Ten, and we put that out on Twitter on March 31st, April 2nd, April 4th, April 5th. We went, and if you missed that episode, go to episode 22 of our YouTube channel. It goes through the history. How we broke the story. But the reason we were given this information and the reason we were tracked by the Big Ten legal counsel, the chief of staff of Kevin Warren, because they didn't want this breaking news. But the boosters wanted Kevin Warren to know that they knew, and they better get USC on board. There was so much cloak and dagger stuff I still can't talk about. So I'm letting you, again, I'm re-emphasizing. There was absolutely no trust in Kevin Warren. From the Big Ten presidents, from the Big Ten major boosters who's sitting on their money perch. No trust. Very little trust from everybody else in college football. Very little trust from Fox Sports. I can go on, and I talked about it at that time. That is the backdrop. Back to the article. There's no chance a partnership, cooperation between college sports heavyweights happens if Sankey and new Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti, barely 9 months on the job, replacing Warren, who left for the NFL, didn't grow to trust each other in a short time. Out of ingenuity or necessity, they're moving forward to find answers to an unsettling future of college sports generally and college football specifically, and leaving the Cold War behind. There was significant damage there. That's probably the best way to say it. An SEC athletic director said of the relationship between the two conferences prior to Petitti's arrival last April. When you have no idea what's coming next, there's no level of trust. Like the summer of 2020, when the commissioners of the Power 5 conferences met to chart a course through the pandemic, the overriding philosophy was to allow scientific data and real-time anecdotal evidence, however skewed it now looks, 3 years later, dictate the decisions on playing a 2020 season. So the Big Five commissioners got together. They all agreed they were going to work together, follow each other's lead, hand in hand, to make a decision on what they were going to do during the pandemic. And of course, Kevin Warren lurched forward. The commissioners met and began hashing out non-conference schedules between the Power 5 conferences. At that point, there was uncertainty about the ability of Group of 5 schools to afford testing, especially if it meant multiple tests over a week for the entire 85-man roster. During the conference call of the commissioners and after the group was making progress, Warren interrupted the call and abruptly pulled out, declaring the Big Ten has to lead, and we're leading right now. Multiple sources told SDS. The Big Ten's departure sidetracked everything. Not long after, the Big Ten canceled the season, and the Pac-12 quickly followed because it walks locksteps with the Big Ten on all matters. Warren then publicly leaked the nonsensical idea of spring football, following an idea put forth by the Ivy League, which eventually didn't play in the spring of 2021, where schools would play 2 seasons in 9 months. It was bad enough that at the time, NCAA still owned a player's name, image, and likeness, despite looming game-changing bills passing through the legislatures of California and Florida, and still had the hammer of limiting player movement. Now Warren was pitching an idea that would ask those same players to compete 2 seasons in over 9 months. Ridiculous. All while the NCAA was fighting the players' ability to earn off their NIL and restricting their movement. The idea was utterly laughable and more damaging to the relationship between the SEC and the Big Ten, showed how disconnected Warren was from a horizon of change that was quickly closing. Months later, after a near revolt from conference members and after the SEC, ACC, and the Big 12 were moving forward with the original plan to play, the Big Ten decided to return to play. The Pac-12, of course, quickly followed. They followed the Big Ten back to football. That ended any hope of cooperation moving forward between the two conferences. The Cold War was absolutely freezing at this time. Then it got worse. The unraveling. The bombshell news arrived in the summer of 2021 at SEC Media Days. Of all places, Texas and Oklahoma were leaving the Big 12 and joining the SEC. This monumental shift of conference expansion, 2 of college football's biggest properties moving to its most successful conference, was a big problem for the Big Ten. And it led to Warren's shrewdest move of all. The alliance with the Pac-12 and the ACC. The alliance was formed, more than anything, to prevent the 12-team playoff, of which Sankey was an integral factor in its development, from moving forward. Because if the expanded playoff stays on course and is implemented by 2022-2023 season, Warren may not have been able to convince USC, UCLA to lead the Pac-12. I disagree with this part. Big time. That was, USC was going to go to the Big Ten. They were interested going into the Big Ten regardless. It was not a shrewd move by Warren. Kevin Warren the alliance was more of a reactionary move to the SEC expanding with Oklahoma and Texas, Big Ten making sure that at the very least, they could build up their non-conference schedules to make sure they maintain a high-level media contract, the ACC, with the ACC and the Pac-12. But the biggest reason Kevin Warren did this is because he wanted to band those other 2 conferences together to ensure that when the playoffs expanded, that ESPN would not get all the content. Well, it looks like ESPN is getting all the content. Let me go on. I want to explain a little bit more. In other words, USC or UCLA could have made the new 12-team playoff as a member of the Pac-12 and earned $14 million by reaching the quarterfinals. USC, UCLA could have also negotiated the final playoff payments from a conference to school distribution. This still would not have kept the Pac-12 together. USC did not call the Big Ten because it was going to be harder to win the conference championship. That's not part of the criteria. They knew what was about to happen with higher compensation to student athletes. So the schools that had the opportunity to move to higher ground, they did so. One right after the other. So that part I would absolutely disagree with. And I don't know how much more evidence you need of that. However, the potential $26 million carried every season would have been hard to ignore for USC, UCLA. I just do not agree with that at all. But Warren cobbled together the alliance and scuttled the 12-team playoff with the help of the Pac-12 and ACC. With postseason uncertainty looming in the overall structure of the sport teetering, he was able to pry USC, UCLA from the Pac-12. And I want to say this once again. Matt Hayes has given Kevin Warren a whole lot of credit for getting this done. And I'm going to tell you, man, I was in fortunately to be in the position of being able to read a lot of communication. There was there was a whole lot of phone calls made from USC to a couple particular Big Ten institutions that we were privy of in real time. Not in real time, but almost in real time. There was end runs around the commissioner. The boosters wanted it. The Big Ten presidents wanted it. And they were making sure that Kevin Warren couldn't screw it up. Now, I reported this also in real time. This is why this was part of the motivations. And I'm not going to get into any more deeper than this, but what I'm saying is Kevin Warren was given this whole USC, UCLA, the city of Los Angeles on a silver platter. I will give credit to Kevin Warren in regards to the media deal he struck. Even though it wasn't completely finished when he left, Tony Petitti had to finish it all up. But Tony Petitti had to dot the I's and cross the T's. There was still a lot of work to be done. But I give credit to the philosophy that Kevin Warren did when making that media package happen. But UCLA and USC to the Big Ten, Kevin Warren, given credit for that, being a shrewd move. No. Nope. PATC is not going down that road. And I've expressed some of the reasons. There's other reasons that I can't express. And I'm just going to leave it at this. Kevin Warren and the Big Ten, the chief of staff of the Big Ten, they did not like the fat guy from Minnesota during this whole process. They were not shrewd. They were very, very fortunate. Back to the article. Think about the concept. Forming an alliance of like minds, complete with an us against the world press conference, all while setting in motion the wheels to stab an alliance partner in the back less than a year later. The wheels were not in motion when this was drawn up. Again, something else that's incorrect in this article. It wasn't. We don't know here at Peek Around the Corner the exact date that USC called the Big Ten. We reported it March 31st, all the way to late June, we got raked over the coals by everybody except for a couple of media outlets. Nobody knew this was happening except for us and a couple of media outlets because we gave them the information. But it happened sometime before May 31st. In 2021, there wasn't quite that. There was third-party talks. There was initial phone calls. Of course there was. After the announcement that Oklahoma and Texas, but there was nothing, there was no traction until sometime in the early spring, late winter 2022. Warren wasn't that shrewd. He wasn't thinking, he wasn't playing 4D chess. None of that was true. USC called the Big Ten. Fox Sports, when they got word of it, they said, get it done. When the boosters got wind of it, they started to leak. And I was the one of the big ones that they leaked to. It wasn't shrewd by Kevin Warren in any way as it's written in this article. I, again, just want to be clear because we were in the trenches real time during the story. At this point, it may as well have been Eisenhower versus Khrushchev. No. Kevin Warren wasn't Dwight D. Eisenhower. Kevin Warren wasn't Dwight D. Eisenhower. The Cold War was alive and well in college football. That I agree with. Then the NFL Bears stepped in and offered a lifeboat, hiring Warren as their team president. Now in the midst of all that is unfolding in college sports, the uncertainty of NIL, free player movement, and eventually revenue sharing, Sankey and Petitti realized the only way out is through cooperation and trust. Number 3, moving forward. The overriding question. What does the new world look like? In my title at this live show, I said the Cold War is over for now. What happens next? In Matt Hayes' article, number 3, moving forward, the overriding question, what does the new world look like? What steps do the SEC and the Big Ten take to move away from the amateur model held so dearly by so many within the NCAA structure and find a solution that may not be good enough for all, but good for enough? The playoff, NIL, player movement, roster management, rules enforcement, and the big one, the big enchilada, revenue sharing, which is the straw that is stirring the drink for everything. Everything is on the table, and no idea is too large or too unthinkable. It's Sankey's blue sky philosophy all over again. In a perfect world, what does it look like? The last time Sankey delivered his blue sky speech, it was in response to a 12-team playoff being indefinitely shelved by a vote from the alliance. Everything was on the table then too, including the SEC holding its own playoff. There it was. It was brinkmanship. Right? We're gonna hold our own playoff if we can't come to a conclusion. Get some results. If revenue sharing is implemented, no matter what it looks like or amount shared, it will come with roster control stipulations. They also likely means collective bargaining. Hallelujah, collective bargaining. Been talking about that since episode 1 of this channel. How it looks and how it will be structured will become in the near term. But by moving forward as 2 conferences, not 10 conferences, the process of change in all areas is streamlined and avoids constant bureaucratic red tape. The NCAA and the remaining conferences. by moving forward as two conferences. Man Hayes is not talking breakaway here. He's talking about building consensus among the two biggest conferences, and then everybody better follow. One industry source told SDS, there will be a moment down the road where they say, this is where we are. They say, the power two. This is where we are. This is the structure. This is what we're doing. If you want to be a part of it, get on board. And they will. In my opinion. The rare change, the epilogue. No one is publicly stating as much, but there's little doubt where this could be all headed. A full breakaway of those who can from those who can't. Those who can afford to share revenue and those who can join the group. And all the Big 12, all the ACC schools, they're going to be sharing revenue with their student athletes. Those who can't likely become another level of Division I football, continuing under the NCAA umbrella. Is it just football or is it all sports? Is it just football in the playoff or is it all postseason, including their own men's and women's basketball tournaments? These are the paradigm questions still be answered and part of the ever-shifting landscape that includes the Florida State's legal arguments to leave the ACC and the fallout of a successful court case opening the door for other ACC defections. They are all one in the same. Another SEC athletic director. Every issue that must be dealt with in one way or another is part and parcel of the others. And this SEC athletic director is absolutely correct. Every issue is connected with every other issue, and the big issue that's leading it all, the straw that is stirring the drink, is the revenue sharing to the student athletes. It's why Texas and Oklahoma got themselves more prepared for it by joining the SEC. It's why USC called the Big Ten. It's why the Big 12 was so aggressive in poaching from the Pac-12. It's why the Pac-12 presidents were trying to get the most money, most exposure possible out of their new Pac-12 media deal, and it just did not work out. It's why Florida State and a couple other ACC schools are trying to get out of the ACC. Revenue sharing, driven by lawsuits. So, the Cold War is over for now. We'll see what the advisory group, the SEC and the Big Ten advisory group, see if they can settle on some consensus. They don't have the authority to do anything. And then see if they can get the Big 12 and the ACC on board. And we'll see how that plays out. But I thought that article had to be discussed. The Cold War, it's over. And what do you think it's going to look like going forward? Ryan Willie, the evil badger, thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate it. Will this new partnership between ESPN and Fox make it less likely Florida State leaves the ACC? I don't think so. Now, the Cold War is over for now between the Big Ten and the SEC. A little bit of the Cold War is over between ESPN and Fox because they are agreeing to do the standalone skinny sports bundle streaming platform. They agreed to do this with Warner Brothers Discovery. But I'm not buying into this kumbaya between ESPN and Fox. I will see. Now, in regards to realignment, if there is any coordination, among the Power Two. I think it happens with the SEC and the Big Ten, and then collusion without collusion, right? Discussions that are not really official. Nothing can be put on paper. And let's say the presidents, the commissioners talk, then they get their valuations from ESPN and Fox and what they want. ESPN and Fox are not going to be, they're not going to be coordinating on this. There is a true competitive, I'm not buying it. There's only so much kumbaya that I'm going to buy on this. We'll see going forward. For example, if Florida State can buy out of the ACC grant of rights, let's just say it's $200 million. And I know JD disagrees with me, and that's fine. He thinks everything's settled. A lot of people think. I don't think things are settled. The moment that Florida State, the court rules, or there's a settlement between ACC and Florida State, I don't think Florida State walks into Rosemont, Illinois, the Big Ten building, and signs the paper because everything's done. Or I don't think they go to Birmingham, Alabama the next day and sign the paper and everything's done. I think the game is on, really on, after Florida State gets themselves free from the grant of rights. I know a lot of people think everything is settled. This is in this column. These schools are in that column. I'm not buying that. People who talk to me are not buying that. There's too much unknown. There's too many variables. There's too much road to go before we get to that point. I know a lot of people disagree with me. A lot of people believe that things are settled. I don't. I think there's going to be a rock fight for some of those schools. Here's the big news before we get to your comments about the Cold War. Nick Saban, breaking news. Right before we came on live, Nick Saban, the legendary Hall of Fame coach, college football coach, is going to be a college football analyst for College Game Day, ESPN. And I'm not shocked by this. Their ESPN is going to bring the brake truck backing up to Saban's place in his long driveway, back it up and unload bags of cash to get Saban back on ESPN as an analyst. So that is big breaking news. Big breaking news. And the Boston College head coaching search. Hearing Boston College is now down to 2 candidates in its head coaching search. Ohio State Buckeye offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien is one of them. Paul Chryst is the other. And I think we all believe that Bill O'Brien is the chalk, the favorite, if he wants it. Paul Chryst is probably the backup. Man, oh man, if Bill O'Brien leaves being the Buckeyes offensive coordinator for how long? How many months? 1, 2 months? I don't even know. Man, oh man, then the Ohio State Buckeyes offensive coordinator position comes open. Is that Chip Kelly's next stop? Wow. Okay, let's get to your comments. I do have another story that I want to get to, but let's get in. I haven't gone through you guys' comments since the start of the show. Ba, 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 ba. Expedition Greg, Miami and Florida State are likely the 19th and 20th teams in the Big Ten. I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone lines. You can talk anything college football. There is more stuff I want to get to in this show. But right now I want to open up the phone lines. Morris Simmons, Florida State is absolutely out of the ACC. Kirk Bender, we are still confident that Florida State will go to the Big Ten, correct? A lot of people, okay, so I made a tweet. I put out a tweet today. I put out a tweet. I've been corrected by the PATC community. Actual conference change, quote unquote, scenario shown in Florida State's Osceola project for 2026 projects $96.4 million in conference payouts. But this $96.4 million falls in line with the 2026 SEC projections, not the Big Ten, and that's from Navigate. Interesting. I don't know. Maybe I should not have used the word interesting. Okay, so for those who didn't watch a live show yesterday, Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times, the great Matt Baker, did a FOIA request months ago, and he received 2,500 pages of documents, a lot of it redacted. Some of the information was absolutely incredible. One part of the documents that was not redacted, it looked like it read that according to the Florida State Osceola project, that in 2025, the conference payout revenue is projected to be around $43 million, but then it takes a big jump to $96.4 million 2026 projections. So I try to correlate that $96.4 million projection to a particular conference, and I thought it was the Big Ten. I was wrong. If you can't see the years here, but right about here, right about where that dot is, you see that dot, the SEC dot, that's 2026. And that looks like about 96 million. While the Big Ten estimates are below 90 million at that time. So I was thinking that maybe Florida State put that 96.4 million, this was like 2022, thinking there was more of a chance for them to go to the SEC and the Big Ten. It doesn't really matter. Right? I mean, it was 2022 information. They were taking the information off of Navigate. Did at the time, were they leaning SEC? Probably, if they could get out of the ACC. But anyways, I just wanted to correct I thought, in my brain, I thought I was thinking, I was imagining Big Ten with Navigate projections. I thought it was Big Ten at around 96. I thought the SEC was lower, and then it would take off. But it takes off right around 2025, next year. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. I just wanted to clear that up. I made a mistake, but it's not, I don't think it means much anymore. Anything on Clemson? No. Nope. Complete silence. Absolute complete silence. And we are 8 days away from the ACC winter meetings. 8 days away. So, I don't know. I don't see Clemson doing anything after the winter meetings when it comes to the year 2024. Maybe Clemson, maybe they do something very unexpected and they go to the meeting, they're in the meetings, and then 6 weeks afterwards they say, "Oh, we want out, we're threatening, we're suing the AC." It doesn't. Nobody think that's going to happen. And that's why the date range was put out there. This is the time we think Clemson's going to pull the trigger. That date range has passed. We've taken the L a couple days. We'll take it for our fourth day today. 4 L's in a row on the Clemson story. Now, let's say that Clemson's been sitting here and they've been thinking, well, we're Florida State. We're going to wait on Florida State. We're going to wait on Florida State's actions. They're in the courts. Leon County, Mecklenburg County. Extended complaints have been filed by both sides. Florida State's doing the dirty work on trying to unseal the documents, the communications, the gores, the TV contract, and all that. They're trying to, ACC's trying to keep it all sealed. ESPN, I think we're 17 days away where they have a deadline, 17 days more in their deadline to file a brief in response to the ACC and Florida State. And maybe Clemson's sitting there and going, yeah, we'll let this play out, and if that is the case, if that is Clemson's position, where they can go out and say something really vanilla to anybody, to News and Observer, to all those sites. Do you know how big Clemson media is? Do you know how many sites? Do you know how many beat writers? Do you know David Hall? Do you know all those names? Larry Williams, on and on and on. That do big Clemson stories, that have access to Clemson football. They're guys who write about how much the hot dogs are going to cost 6 months before the season starts. It's big. Graham Neff is always talking. He ain't talking. Clemson's not talking. And if it was again, I've showed this because this is the best example I've got. Something vanilla like this, something like Miami Athletic Director. We are an interested observer with Florida State taking actions toward leaving the ACC. But right now, we are proud members of the ACC. That's all Graham Neff needs to say. Just say, yeah, well, we're watching. That's Florida State's business. We got our own business. Why haven't they done the vanilla statement? Why haven't they done the vanilla statement? Why can't anybody get a hold of them? Well, one theory is because all this time they're about to pull the trigger. Okay, let's just push that aside. Let's say that's just not true. That we got our information wrong, everybody else got the information wrong. What's another reason why they haven't put out a vanilla statement? I'm going to give you another theory. And it's been partially reported on. And that is, Clemson is, even though they haven't pulled the trigger, even though they haven't filed anything to the courts, not that we know of, we're sitting here at 6:19 Eastern Time, Wednesday, February 7th. Even though they haven't done that, they know too much. They've done too much. ACC knows it. They know too much. ACC knows it. Clemson has talked too much to Florida State, and ACC knows it. So maybe if they do the vanilla statement like Miami, maybe that they figure is in bad faith, because everybody knows that Clemson's, not only have they dipped their toes in the water, but they've dipped their whole foot, ankle, their calf muscle, their knee, and they're up mid-thigh. That's the only way. That is the only. Now, obviously, I've had discussions with people on this, so we've batted this back and forth. And what is Clemson doing? Okay, they haven't pulled the trigger. They haven't put out a vanilla statement. They're not taking any calls, any interviews. What is Clemson doing? Here at Peek Around the Corner, we pride ourselves in being able to tell you, but we don't know. We don't know. And here at Peek Around the Corner and PATC community, we're not the only people trying to figure this out. There are people with resources. There are people who work with major part of the college football reporting industry. They're trying to figure this out. What is going on at Clemson? I want to do a Holy Smokes Theater update. I want to post the theater, and I want to give you a big time update. And it's going to be circling around Clemson. But I got nothing. Even North Carolina Board of Trustees have said stuff to this. Now, I want to be careful here. In fact, I don't even remember the name of the person, so I'm going to butcher the name. I'm going to be careful. We don't believe when Clemson talks, they're going to talk at some point, that it's not going to be the chairman of the Board of Trustees. I think it's Wilkerson, something. I don't want to check my emails right now. It won't be coming from that person. They'll be coming from somebody else, we think. I don't know. It won't be coming from Nikki Haley either. She's a member of Clemson's Board of Trustees. She's running a presidential campaign. But there is a couple other people that we think would talk first, which is sort of unusual, but we don't think it's going to come from the chair. And that's about as far as I can go with that. We don't know what's going on. And it's not a lack of effort, and it's not a lack of interest, and it's not a lack of having, talking to really good people. But nobody can get an answer. Nobody can get an interview. No, they haven't pulled the trigger. No vanilla statement. No interviews. Okay, the phone line's open. 763-260-1333. We are going to talk about it looks like the Colorado Buffaloes have got their new defensive coordinator, Cincinnati Bengals secondary coach, Rob Livingston. Cincinnati Bengals secondary coach, Rob Livingston, is expected to be Colorado's new defensive coordinator, a source tells The Athletic. So, people are jumping off the NFL boat into... No, just kidding. Just kidding. Interesting. Colorado has gotten their new defensive coordinator. That is breaking news. Here's Ross Dellinger. "14 minutes ago, Paul Feinbaum calls the SEC and the Big Ten joint board as an alliance." This is Paul Feinbaum. Greg Sankey responds, "That's a bad word." Then Greg Sankey mentions to Feinbaum that he'd approached former Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren about the two leagues working together. Though Sankey didn't say it, I'd long heard that Warren did not whatever that word is, and the two never really held serious talks. Which is not surprising. Kevin Warren didn't really have serious talks with anybody. Never built consensus. Never was interested in building consensus. Yeah, I did watch that guest for a little bit on the Big 12 Mafia show with Immaculate Moen, Nathan Brown, and Wild Ute. They had a writer on there who thought that Miami wants to keep the ACC together. That would be their number one priority. There may be people at Miami that wants that to be their number one priority. Just like I think there is at North Carolina as well. I think I just happen to think the wave, once it gets unleashed by Florida State, the wave is going to be too big, too powerful, and I think Miami is one of the institutions that the wave picks up and brings it somewhere else other than the ACC. But I understand why Hurricane fans, some of them would want to stay in the ACC and all that stuff. I get it. The gentleman said that Miami Hurricanes don't want to go up north to play their games. And of course, I don't have many opportunities during the season to throw my golden gopher elbow. So I do it during the off season, right? So I put out a comment saying, just another team, Miami Hurricanes, just another team that is afraid of my beloved Golden Gophers. They don't want to go up north to play Minnesota. I was joking. Kind of. Okay. Gonna go over, and again, during the live show, if there's breaking news, keep your head on a swivel, especially when it comes to Dallas, the meeting yesterday. If there's any reporting on it, I'm gonna let you know what I think.
Call from
BJ.
BJ, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
What's up, Greg? Thanks for having me on. I want to make a comment about Miami wanting the ACC to stay together. It could be possibly true, who knows? But, if you follow the meetings, it looks like UNC and Florida State have gotten the go-ahead to have you get clear of the ACC, Big Ten, here we come. I don't hear any, even though Miami is a private school, they don't have the freedom of information stuff that, and the public, stuff that state schools have. But I don't hear any meetings at Clemson, any meetings at Miami. The two schools with the most meetings that are at least publicizing it are Florida State and UNC. So I think as soon as Florida State kind of opens the door, UNC and Florida State are gone, and Miami and whoever will try to figure out what to do with the ACC or join another conference.
There is difference of opinion by legal experts. Some of them believe that whatever happens with Florida State, it's called a staircase deal where other people will be able to just walk up and take the same deal that Florida State got from the ACC. And some legal experts says no. Whatever happens between Florida State and ACC, someone else is going to have to walk in their own footsteps and get in with the ACC and try to get the same deal. I don't know. So, obviously, BJ, if nobody else goes to the courts, if nobody else enters the court case on this, either one, they don't believe that they can help themselves. In other words, even if they could, there is no landing spot for them. Or number two, they believe that Florida State can do all the work, and we can just walk in when Florida State's done and do the same thing as Florida State and get in out of the grant of rights. I don't know which one. I don't know. I don't know.
You would just hope. I mean, typically when things like this happen, there are conversations that are publicly, especially for a university, there are so many people who have to get on board with the decision. You would think like schools would be more like North Carolina. Like, we're going to prepare ourselves, give us the authority to make a move in case this happens. And I just haven't heard anything from Clemson, anything from Miami. Virginia has been like super quiet. So to me, it's baffling that those schools are not more vocal, right?
Yeah.
In their stands.
Yeah. Again, people we've talked to, Florida State's perception, as far as the people that we've talked to, believe that Clemson was going to follow up and enter the court. So,
okay, well, hopefully we'll see. And lastly, on a slightly separate topic, with the Power Two and the everybody else, there are strong opinions about whether it's going to kill or ruin college football or whether it's the greatest thing ever. What is your opinion? Where do you lie in terms of if the Power Two were to kind of financially set themselves apart, get a bigger percentage, maybe 70%, 60% of the pie between the two conferences? Where do you think this lies? How would history treat this moment of when the Big Two kind of separates.
Well, and I'm not sure if I understand the question, but I've said for a long time that there was going to be this power 2, power 3 in money, power, and influence. I do not think there's going to be a breakaway. I don't think there's going to be a breakaway for many, many years, at least 8 years. I think this playoff contract is going to get signed with everybody's playoff access intact. Maybe I'm being naive. But yes, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to have more money. They're going to be able to, with revenue sharing with their student athletes, they're going to have the advantage. Some schools outside of the SEC and the Big Ten are still going to be able to, create money, create revenue, boosters and everything. It's going to be hard for them to keep up. But then again, Tampa Bay Rays sometimes go to the World Series, to the playoffs, and the Yankees don't, right? So, yeah. But I don't think I would. Again, I am not big on the idea that playoff access is about to get cut. But maybe we'll see. We'll find out at some point, right?
Yeah. And I'll just say this: I think it'll be play along for a couple of years. I think the telling piece will be at the end of the Big 12's at 2029.
Okay.
If ESPN and Fox, depends on how much they offer, the Big 12, whether and next year 2025. Will the ESPN offer the ACC, and will they extend that contract?
Yes. Yeah.
If they don't extend those contracts or offer the Big 12 kind of a $30 million, whereas the SEC and the Big Ten is getting $100 million, to me, that tells me that the CFP, the ESPN, the media partners are just all in on this power 2, and I don't think they will just cut. I don't think they'll cut access. However, the committee, like last year, will choose and pick who joins the league. And I think it'll be no automatic bids. And out of the 14 or 12 to 16 teams, I would say 12 of them, 80% of them will come from those two conferences.
Yeah.
So thanks for having me on. Again, appreciate it. The show is amazing.
You got it. I appreciate it, BJ. Call again, sir. Appreciate it. Breaking news. We've got breaking news. Tampa Bay Times, Matt Baker. 16 minutes ago, the dueling lawsuits between Florida State and ACC are playing out in courts. The Florida State Board of Trustees versus Atlantic Coast Conference. Atlantic Coast Conference versus the Board of Trustees of Florida State. The latest, February 7th, 2024. Get that out of there. Florida State has asked a North Carolina court to dismiss the ACC's complaint against the Seminoles. In a court filing Wednesday, Florida State argued the conference submitted its suit before any potential harm was done and didn't get the necessary support from the member schools. Florida State has also said the case should be in Leon County, not Charlotte. Bam! And this is what we said on January 9th from the Florida State Money Perch. He reported this. Whose authority? We played our lot. I can go try to find it later on in the show. But we said this on January 9th. Whose authority did the ACC act on? To file a suit against Florida State. nowhere does it give Commissioner Jim Phillips the authority to do so. Not without the vote from the member schools. Florida State has asked the North Carolina court to dismiss the ACC's complaint against the Seminoles. Court filing today, Wednesday. Breaking news. Breaking news. FSU argued the conference submitted its suit before any potential harm and did not get the necessary support from the member schools. Wow. Wow. Give me your thoughts on that, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking news. Breaking news. Holy smokes. I'm going to open up the phone lines once again. Where did Jim Phillips get the authority to act? Now, I am going to try to find, while we're waiting for a phone call, the extended complaint filed a little bit ago. Yeah, those pop-ups are killer. True on that. But true, Joe. But they're trying to dismiss the suit altogether. On whose authority? I wish we had. If somebody can find me the last complaints that the Florida State Board of Trustees filed, it was in that. And it basically stated Florida State's reasoning, like, there is nothing in the bylaws, there's nothing that gives the commissioner authority to do this unless you get a vote from the schools. Give us a call, 763-260-1333. They're all cases argue for dismissal. Paul Clifton, boom, facts over fandom. Very, very interesting. No, because Jamie Thornton says, could this be another thing Clemson has been waiting on? I don't think so. Because Clemson knows all of this. They know the arguments that Florida State was going to make. I've got a question. How does the ACC winter meeting work? How is this going to go? Let's say the ACC gets the injunction. Let's say the ACC is actually successful in getting the ACC injunction. And they are able to stop Florida State from participating and voting in the conference. Let's just say before February 15th. Let's just play this out. We'll go both ways. Let's say the ACC is successful. Okay. All right. But let's be realistic here. They know that Clemson, is this the reason? Is this the reason why Clemson hasn't pulled the trigger? Is Clemson making sure that they're the fox in the hen house? You've shut all the doors to that fox, that Florida State Seminole fox that's out in the woods. You've shut the door on them. But is Clemson going to make sure that they're the fox in the hen house? Is that why they're not pulling the trigger? Is make sure they don't get sanctions on them, an injunction on them, possible damages on them, so they can know what the ACC is talking about in regards to Florida State, the court case, the projections of the court case. All I don't know.
Call from
the bug.
Yes, sir. I did not catch the name.
Hey, Greg, it's the bug.
The bug. Okay, sir. The floor is yours.
I love your show, first of all, and I actually think this filing by Florida State, for all the reasons you've been talking about, probably has a good chance. But what is weird to me is this a double-edged sword? If the ACC, if the argument is correct that Florida State is making, that the ACC was not allowed to file this lawsuit because they didn't get a vote of the members to file the suit. And I don't know the answer to this question, but do they also need a vote of the members to settle the lawsuit?
Well, that's a great question. Boy,
I wonder if that's...
That is a great question. Okay, let's play this out. I'm sorry, I forgot your name again.
The Bug.
The Bug?
Bug, B-O-O-G.
Okay, let's play this out. So let's say the court, let's say this. Let's say the court says Florida State, $120 million exit fee, another $120 because there's only 3 more years that are really real under this grant of rights. The other 9 years are fake because ESPN could have declined it. We're just pretending here. Let's say it's $240 million. But it's $240 million. That's how much it takes for you to get out of the grant of rights. But the ACC doesn't have to accept the payment, right? Something like that.
Do you need to get a vote? Do you need the members to agree on that number?
Yeah. So now the ACC go back to the members and, how many vote yes, how many vote no. I don't know. I mean, it might be a ruling where it's $240 million and Florida State can pay out of it and there's nothing that the ACC can do. If that's the ruling, which I happen to think it would be that type of ruling, then there is no vote. You know what I'm saying? It's like a judgment. Yeah. It's like...
No, I agree with you. I agree. Yeah. I think it only comes up if this is a settlement. If it goes to a ruling, then I don't think a vote's an issue. But if there's a settlement, I mean, I'm only thinking if Florida State, I assume their lawyers know what they're doing, and if the ACC needed to have a vote to file a lawsuit, wouldn't it hold that they also need to have a vote to settle the lawsuit?
I think there's probably a difference there.
You may be right.
But I'm not sure. Hey, Debug, I'm not sure about anything right now. How about them apples?
You and me both.
Yeah.
You and me both.
Yeah.
Well, I love your show. Thank you for taking my call.
I appreciate it. Call again, sir. Thank you so much.
Will do. Thank you.
Great call by Debug. Appreciate it. Canes all day. Super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity. Canes all day. Once again. Holy smokes. What can we determine from ESPN's response to the ACC's request to keep media deal details sealed? Is this a side moment for the folks in Bristol? It may be. They got, 17 more days, right? 17 more days to respond. I could be off by a day or so. Around 17 more days. I only got questions like, are we going to be able to know what the ESPN said? Or is ESPN's response going to be sealed on the question of should ACC be able to keep sealed? It's, I don't, all these contracts and communications, and I don't know, man. It could be very, very informative on ESPN's response. It could tell us everything, or it could tell us nothing. It could confuse us more. It may be a response to say ESPN basically is saying, screw you, Florida State. Or it could be something innocent, and then the Florida State, they've got, I believe, a lot of reasons to be very upset with ESPN. And now it gets even more ignited. I don't know. Very interesting days ahead when it comes to ESPN's response. It could be a pick a side moment. I'm guessing ESPN does not want to do that with their response. I don't know, Canes, all day. I've been saying that word. I've been saying that phrase a lot during this live show. I don't know. But I do appreciate you super chat. It's a great question. There is a lot of great questions. Unfortunately, I'm just coming up with questions as well. Great call. Absolutely. But before we get to our next call, I want to talk about my wolf in the hen house theory. Again, if the injunction, if ACC gets what they want out of the courts, and Florida State cannot participate in talks, and can't participate in voting, Clemson is going to keep their nose clean, and they're going to be able to be in there. And now, we know that ACC knows that Clemson has done a lot of work behind the scenes. So ACC is going to be very careful in saying anything in front of Clemson. So maybe Clemson being in the hen house makes it so they can't talk about really anything relevant to the ACC court case or a whole lot of other important items. I don't think this is why Clemson did not pull the trigger, but it's just interesting to think about. And then let's flip the coin. No injunction happens. Florida State can participate and vote in the ACC winter meetings 8 days from now. They can go in there, they can talk, they can make news, they can be polite, they can come out after the meetings and make news. If they're not treated the way that they believe they should be treated at the ACC meetings, maybe Clemson says, I don't know. Well, the winter meetings is going to be a very fascinating time. The last, you recall the ACC spring meetings, the spring meetings of last year, 2023. Do you remember what happened in those meetings? The morning of, the first day of the ACC spring meetings, breaking news, Yahoo Sports, Ross Dellinger breaks it that 7 schools have been meeting in private without the other schools knowing about it. Later on, we learned that was more subgroups of the 7. About ways to get out of the grant of rights, to get out of the conference, to form their own conference, all these things. And then Brett McMurphy, about an hour later, breaks the news, says he named the 7 schools the Magnificent Seven. It was North Carolina State, North Carolina, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Clemson, Florida State, Miami of Florida. Those 7 schools were the Magnificent Seven. All that came out in the early morning hours before the first day of spring meetings started. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen hours before the winter meetings of the ACC in 2024. May get that injunction. Florida State may walk in there. Mike Alford. Clemson might declare. Who knows? Who knows? Oh, I'm guessing there's going to be a lot more filings happening. Don Scruggs, no one should stay where they want to be. The ACC failed to make a space that Florida State would not have to leave. ACC needs to pivot to start looking towards the teams that want to be there. I'm just going to check this out here. Hold on. While we're waiting here, I'm going to get to a subject in which we did not get to last night. We did it on our early peak episode, Cloak and Dagger. We do got a call coming in.
Call from
John.
John, the floor is yours. How you doing, sir?
Hi, Greg. I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
Hey, look, I was wanting to ask you about the, like I said, alliance is a bad word, the cooperation between Sankey and Petiti. If the SEC did offer to remove protection for Notre Dame, do you think that they may be negotiating to give FSU to the South, to the SEC? I mean, I really don't feel like you can count on anything, whether it's UNC to the South or FSU to the North. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And I just want to see what you thought about that.
I agree. I agree with you, and that's why I keep saying no doors are closed on North Carolina. No doors are closed on Florida State. No doors are closed on Clemson or Miami of Florida, and possibly a few other schools. I absolutely agree with you. When I say that we're leaning North Carolina to the SEC because that's the current lay of the land. That's what we've been told to us. It's been kind of playing out the way we thought. When we say Florida State is a chalk, a slight favorite to go to the Big Ten, that's all it is. No doors have been closed. I do not believe at this time that there is this big coordinated effort to decide, settled on where everybody is going. I do not believe it. The people I talk to do not believe it. So you're absolutely correct. Maybe. Now, I can't believe I'm saying this, because if you would have asked me that question 6 months ago, I said that doesn't happen. But now, yeah, definitely it could happen. Those advisory groups creating relationships, they start to talk, a group of athletic directors over here, a group of athletic directors over there. Let's say Greg Sankey and his heir apparent Bavakwa gives the Big Ten a call and says, we kind of know where this is going. We would like to go to the Big Ten. SEC played a part in that because they were not elevating Notre Dame anymore, like what you said in your comment. And there's a wink and a wink and a nod that Florida State then goes to the SEC because SEC cannot afford the Big Ten to get in that area. They both kind of, yeah, there could be some, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but there could be some coordination between the SEC and the Big Ten. There could be. I don't think there could be coordination between ESPN and Fox. I think it's going to be done at the conference level, and then they pass up. They want valuations done by their media companies. That valuation comes back, and maybe those two conferences talk again and say, yeah, well, this is a pretty even deal. Let's get it done. What do you think?
Well, yeah, when they said those two guys played golf together a little bit,
Yeah.
That's where the deal is done, on the golf course, and they hammer out the details at the office.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes,
no,
sir.
I was thinking that what would the Big Ten be willing to give away to get Notre Dame? Would they give up FSU, Miami, North Carolina? Would they say, we'll just stay out of there? We may take Clemson or Georgia Tech if you'll remove cover for Notre Dame. And then when you look at the ACC, it looks like they're kind of slow walking this thing toward August again. It won't be long. We'll be at 2025 for the ESPN option.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
those are my thoughts. And
well, I tell you what. Let's pretend you're Sankey and I'm Petiti. Okay. I'll grab North Carolina, but I need to be in the state of Florida. So I will grab. I'm sorry. I'm Tony Petiti. I've got Notre Dame, but I need to be in the state of Florida. So it's Notre Dame and Miami. You get North Carolina, Clemson, and if you can pry into Virginia, you can have that. Is that a deal?
No, I'd take UCF, be honest, before I'd take Virginia.
Well, but what I'm saying is Big Ten takes. I'm Tony Petiti. I'm offering you this deal. Big Ten, Notre Dame, Miami, SEC, Clemson, North Carolina. Would you take that deal?
I think I might take that.
Or I'm sorry. No. Wait a second. I screwed that up, didn't I? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Big Ten, Notre Dame, Miami. The SEC is Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and one other school.
Yeah, sure. I'd take that.
Yeah, you take that, right? And maybe the Big Ten would take that as well.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to get into Florida, and of course, if they got Notre Dame, that's a big deal. So.
Yeah, that's what I said. I think they sat there in the golf cart together and said, we don't want to bid against each other. We don't want to run this thing through the roof trying to fight over one team or the other. Let's just, pick out what we really want the most and divide it between the two.
Yeah.
All right, Greg, I'm going to let you go, and I appreciate your show.
You got it. I appreciate a call again, sir.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Great phone call. Let me get through this real quick. I'm going to shut the phone lines off just for a moment. Just for a moment. I don't like seeing this. I do not like seeing this. I do not like seeing what I'm seeing. Holy smokes. Greg Sankey tells Feinbaum this afternoon that the college football playoff have not been able to finalize the 5+7 model. Boy, do I want to see more reporting on this. Not been able to finalize it. Has there been any momentum? Has there been any movement? Okay, I'm about to go on a rant here. Kirk Schultz You are the last remaining holdout. Let me tell you something. If they don't get to the 5+7 model, again, Ross Dellinger, Greg Sankey tells Feinbaum that the CFP has not been able to finalize that 5+7 model. Let me tell you what happens if that 5+7 model does not happen. If that 5+7 model doesn't happen, the G5 schools are screwed. They all 5 G5 conferences, they have acquiesced. They have said yes. Go change it from 6+6 to 5+7. That means that we lose. Each of us, we lose a conference champion to get into the playoffs in 24 and 25. Instead of one G5 conference champion, we're going to get 2 of them in 2024 and 25. But we don't care because it's way more valuable to us to have playoff access from 2026 and beyond. They know the situation. Give up a slot in 24 and 25. Give us that playoff distribution money from 2026 for another 6 years beyond that. Who is holding it up? It's Kirk Schultz. Kirk Schultz for voting rights and for distribution. You just won yourself $200 million. It's unfortunate that you're not at this point, it's unfortunate that Washington State and Oregon State are not that you're not a Power 5 Autonomy Force school anymore. But, okay, what you're doing, though, Kirk Schultz, what you're doing, hopefully you're watching this show. I know you're not, but listen to me. What you're doing is you're playing with the future of the Mountain West schools. You know the schools that you guys have some arrangement with, some football scheduling with? You're screwing with their future. I know you think that somehow the Mountain West and the addition of Oregon State and Washington State could become an Autonomy 4 conference in regards to either voting rights or revenue, playoff distribution. It's not going to happen. It just isn't. Kirk Schultz, man, you are playing with the future of the Mountain West. They want playoff access 2026 and beyond. Boise State, Colorado State, Wyoming, Nevada, Utah State, go right through them all. San Jose State, they want access. They want the playoff money and access from 2020. You're playing with fire. And over what? Not good. That is not good. Not good. That is not the news that I particularly wanted to hear. Kirk Schultz, man. Kirk Schultz. Unfortunately, we're going to have to close the live show down right now. We've been on the air for almost about 2 hours. It's a short one tonight. Wednesday nights are impossible for me. They're difficult. There may be a situation where I come on later tonight. If there's more news that comes down the lane on the Dallas meeting, if there was no progress on the 5+7, then we've got a major story, and I think it's very bad news. So, if that news breaks out, if there's some big old report on it from Ross Dellinger or from Heather Dinich, send it to my DM. I'm going to be on the road here for an hour or so. Send it to me. We may have to do a late night show tonight. Before you leave, please subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel and have your notifications on, because we follow everything in college football. We work hard at it. We do it every single day. We give you the most up-to-date. We oftentimes give you an accurate, quick peek around the corner. But there's so many things going on right now that it is on the knife's edge. We're sitting on the knife's edge. And that last comment by Ross Dellinger, this one right here, Greg Sankey tells Feinbaum the CFP has not been able to finalize the 5+7 model. Maybe they took steps in the right direction, so I don't want to overstep. I don't want to get too dramatic here, but if it's more of a Stonewall thing, we've got a problem. We've got a problem in Dallas. It's not Houston we have a problem. It's Dallas we have a problem. So I'm going to shut it down. Maybe I see you late tonight, guys. So keep your head on a swivel. Send me the information at Flug Empire. I got to take on the road right now. I appreciate you all coming in. I appreciate the donations, the great comments in the chat, the incredible the really good phone calls from new callers. Fantastic. Call again. I appreciate it so very much. Until next time, which could be real soon, later tonight. Until next time. From all of us at Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.